What's going on, everybody? Welcome to your weekend astrology horoscope for the weekend of June 17th and the 18th of 2023. Astrologer Brian Scarborough here, Fixed Air Moon, keeping the collective fixed on astrology. Well, Saturday's here. We got Saturn retrograde. We got a new moon in Gemini. So there's a lot. There's a lot of astrology packed into this weekend, 17th and the 18th. And of course, the big news is Saturn retrograde. That's going to happen at around 9 a.m. in the morning on the West Coast, and then 12 hours later, it's a new moon in Gemini at 26 degrees. So it's an interesting polarity and square point here between this Piscean energy, being Saturn going retrograde, and Neptune, which is still direct. Neptune squaring the new moon by less than a degree, so a very tight orb. And, Saturn's making good aspects with Jupiter. They're in their sextile, their first major aspect since their conjunction in 2020. So there's definitely a lot. And then even Saturn's dispositor, Pluto, being back in Capricorn during this retrograde period is another interesting note. So this is definitely a place where we're looking for truth. This is definitely starting a lot of cycles of truth, of expression, of communication, but there's a murkiness to it with the squares to Neptune. There's the needing to want the answer so badly or so desperately, or idolizing a truth, or idolizing the perfect kind of information or what's going to happen, or trying to think maybe that we have this great understanding of time in general. And not really. That's just the interesting part of life right now, is there isn't really a solidity or a solidarity when it comes to timing and how things are supposed to happen. There's divine order, and some people are great at going with the divine time and divine order, and things happen as they're meant to, and the synchronicities and these different ways. And I think that those people are going to have much more truth and clarity that is going to be more easily discoverable. And then there's another side where things need to really be proven. They need to really have a factual base to them, or that doesn't make sense. And I think that those people are going to struggle a little more in this, this lunation here coming up, because there is definitely a quench. We want to have our quench for truth and for knowledge. We want to have that thirst quenched, if you will. We want to have that sensation kind of amplified with Jupiter in Taurus and the North Node in Taurus. And now it's kind of moving into the way we think and speak and communicate and take in information and, give information at the same token. So it's very interesting. I think a big thing is this Saturn retrograde that's stationed right as we come into a new moon in Gemini, and Pluto being at 29 Capricorn. I think that there's a lot of truth in our past right now, and I'm not really one to say that very often. I'm much more in the moment, kind of look ahead in life, but it does feel like there's more truth in the synchronicities of kind of what we've already put a lot of time and effort and work into in our lives. And it's almost like a refinement period. I feel like we're refining knowledge. We're refining the ways we think. So there's this refinement that I think is very fitting for this new moon and kind of getting started. But it's going to favor the dreamer. It's going to favor the ones who are looking at things outside the box, who are taking in information from wherever they can get it, and not maybe projecting the need for a certain source to bring it, or a certain whatever space to kind of come through, but just to let the divine bring the truth in. And then it's going to be more easily, I think, synthesized within our mind, understood, and that's where we can really make huge, I think, just groundbreaking understandings of an unconscious within us that's becoming more and more conscious. Because I think overall that's really the spiral up that Neptune's trying to take us as it finishes up these last couple years here in Pisces, is our consciousness is spiraling up big time. So this is a weird one, because our unconscious and our conscious are kind of at odds. And how we deal with that is everything. Sometimes we gotta let things go. It's also, it's an interesting time, because trying to escape reality or escape the mundane in a sense is going to kind of lead you astray. So we kind of have to be really paying attention, but not in expectation, but paying attention just in our being and with our soul. And that will make more sense to the now, to the environment, to things that are getting started, to what the truths are that are being, re-understood possibly, because again, I think this is a big re-understanding. It's not so much of this new information as it is, I think, a re-understanding of our environments, where we're supposed to be, how we're supposed to be doing it, what makes the most sense, and it's what makes sense spiritually. It's what makes sense within your consciousness. It might not make sense on paper. It might not make sense to the numbers, right? So that's just where I'm like, oh yeah, Mercury's interesting, right? Mercury's in Gemini at home, very strong, the dispositor of this new moon, and it's at 11 degrees, and it's with Aldebaran, Archangel Michael. So, and still kind of coming off that square with Saturn at 7 degrees. It's just, I don't know, it's a beautiful thing. I mean, that's where I think the due diligence is important, our integrity, like being very truthful, very honest. That's how we cut to the truth, whether we're getting a reflection of honesty or not, or whether we're getting trickster energy from people too, because that's where Gemini can provide some trickster energy, Mercury can as well, and then squares to Neptune can definitely be an interesting vibration of like, what's true, what's real, what's this, what's that. But I think as long as you're in integrity with yourself, as long as you are, just responding to life with your truth at any moment during this lunation, during your life right now, because you got to remember, like Gemini is the sign, it's a sign of change. It's truth, and truth always does change. It really does. The way we think, what we believe, all these different narratives to how we see life is always up to change based on information that presents itself. So the less we can expect things or think we, know what somebody else is feeling, but really ask the question, have the conversation and not just go into a fantasy that we can make up about a situation, I think we'll be doing a lot better, because it could be easy to over romanticize the way something's going to happen, but not having the talk, speaking your opinion. That will all lead to what feels like some kind of trickster energy or shisty energy that I don't think anybody wants to deal with. So just paying attention to that stuff. It's a weird one too, as a lunation, square Neptune, because right now is not a great time to, drink a bunch, use alcohol, drugs. And look, I don't want to tell anybody how to live their life. It's just like, astrologically, it's a sketchy time for that. Saturn just went retrograde in the collective 12th house. Big squares to Neptune in the collective 12th house. There's a lot of 12th house energy. Not only could we bring up anxieties within ourselves and become, kind of locked away in some mental prison right now, but we could get ourselves, put on a timeout from the universe, if you will. And Saturn's now retrograde. So it's kind of like summer school, but it's like, which summer school classes are you in? Are you in like the summer school classes of, maybe it's more fun and exciting, or is it the summer school that is like hell because you're away from what you actually want to be doing because maybe you made some big mistakes? Interesting ways to look at it. Again, I don't want to tell anybody what to do. Live your life, have a good time, but if you don't have to, escape to the brink, don't. It's going to be, it might feel like it's too mundane, or you're kind of stuck in reality if you don't, but using things to find inspiration isn't actually going to bring the inspiration. The inspiration will come through you taking a time out for yourself, you taking time to meditate, you taking time to read a book, taking time to quiet down the noise, because everything can be loud right now. But it's in those moments where you find your creative outlets and where you want to put your fantasy in life and what you do with fantasy and imagination. These are just extremely artistic, creative times. So that's one of the benefits, is that I think our unconscious mind is trying to show us better ways to create that don't involve going down a route that we thought we had to go before, but like taking a more responsible, route. The responsible routes that might take more time are the better ways to go right now. It'll have a better return on investment. It'll just make so many things just start to click and be understood, in my opinion. So that's where I'm at for the new moon. And then as we come to Sunday, We're going to see the moon come into Cancer, and it's going to make really nice aspects to the nodes with a sextile to the north node, trine to the south node, which I mean I think is dignified here in Cancer. It's really trying to, I think, feel, and with Sun square Neptune, it's sensitive. There's a lot of feelings. You know, Sunday's going to come into like, oh wow, like it was very mental, maybe heady on Saturday, but then it gets really deep into feeling, and you know, deep into thought about feeling and expression of feeling. And anytime we're taking that towards a positive route of creating based on feeling and doing something that feels like it's going to sprout more life into our life, whether it takes more work or more effort or not, it's not about like a quick hit to, you know, feel good. It's about putting work and effort into your life in creative, you know, function that feels good. That's where magic is with this new moon, because there can be a lot of magic to this. I'm not going to lie. It's definitely got potential, but it's almost grabbing something from our Pluto and Capricorn days and getting ready, because it's like, oh, that's actually very important for the new world. So you're going to want to like take that with you. That's an interesting download I've gotten about this Pluto degress into Capricorn, is there's actually something very important from that. And what we've learned over the last 16 years, 15 really, but coming up, and you know, we're probably going to dip back in and grab some more, but there's actually some really important things that we put a lot of time and effort into that need to be like almost rediscovered and brought into our consciousness again to go forward. So we might feel that deeply, and it's like, okay, let's keep putting work into that, and you know, it's not time to give up either, you know, so got to keep going that way. Then the moon's going to make really nice aspects. It's going to trine Saturn, which is stationed retrograde in Pisces. It's going to sextile Jupiter. Jupiter is going to come to 7 degrees of Taurus, and it's also, yeah, that's what, because yeah, it trined over to the south node before that. I was thinking there's a little bit of a grand trine, and there is, but it gets a little wide there. When it gets up there. But again, like that sextile triangle with the moon, Saturn in trine, both sextiling Jupiter and Taurus, is just like saying too, like these feelings, your consciousness, things that you want to make, you know, more abundant in your life, and being able to put effort into it, but also knowing it might be a different way to put the effort in. Like, so that's where things are a little different too. And that's another part of Sunday, is like kind of a reconfiguration of almost like how to use your life force, how to use your energy. And that's where I think Mercury and Mars in Leo are being a big help to this. Mercury's like going to come over to like 13, 14 by Sunday, and it's right in the midpoint of Mars, Venus in Leo. And Venus is about to go into shadow, but it's not quite there yet. That'll be coming up later in the week at 12 degrees. So it's coming to 11 on Sunday. And Mercury's going to be in that like sweet you know, hitting that midpoint. And there's a ton of like new ways to create. And I think it's giving us a certain level of identification with our mind and our self-expression in a way that's like very potent, very creative, and trying to be channeled into how to absorb that potential and create more abundance and create more of an amplification of whatever is quality and bomb in your life, like bomb.com, like good stuff. Whether it's just feelings of feeling good, a belief of feeling good, that's getting ready to channel creative like life force energy to, that's great. But I think it's almost like we're really starting to see how to build our consciousness, build our reality for quality in the future. And it's just about being open and receptive. And I think we're learning different layers of time and how time works for us. So it's definitely a big weekend where we can really see, I think, a little bit of like a timeline like lapse, or, you know, some kind of like could even have maybe like a mandala effect a little bit. Like I've experienced this time before. It will have relevance, but in a different new way. So kind of almost deja vu. Very weird how that just kind of feels like this weekend is going to bring something from the past that I think we really wanted, that we probably didn't fully achieve all the way, and give us some kind of creative inspiration of how to channel that emotion and that feeling back into that situation that we want to build abundance around, because that actually does hold a lot of value to the soul. So again, this stuff is weird because the sun's in Gemini square Neptune, and we might not it can feel very confusing. So if it's a confusing weekend for you as we start off this lunation, like that'll pass. There's going to be a lingering of it, but it'll pass and there will be more clarity. So, you know, got a little darker out here. So there will be more clarity. It's coming, but it's going to be more of like a tune in. You know, you're going to have to tune out a lot of noise and tune into what's going on internally. It's really going to help us find things, make sense of truth, understand truth. So that's where I think this weekend's very powerful, very potent. If your mind feels like it's going a million miles per hour and it's confusing and it's bringing up anxieties, and you feel like you're going into the worst, you know, situation, like you gotta figure out how to calm down and like feel good. Whatever you have to do that, do it. Especially if it's in a responsible manner that, you know, isn't trying to just fully escape, because that's also the detriment. So we gotta know our boundaries in a place where there really isn't a lot of boundaries. Saturn, the planet of boundaries, retrograde in Pisces, big squares to Neptune in Pisces. There's not a lot of boundaries right now. So we almost have to have the, you know, responsibility within ourselves to create our own boundaries and know what the limits are for ourselves. I think that's important. Let's see here. Brighten it up a little bit. All right, Seven of Pentacles. Yeah, I feel like this is kind of like rediscovering where to put effort in. It like shows us that like the hard work maybe that we've already been getting into will pay off more, that there's more work maybe to be done to get the full payout. So it's funny, I feel like we're going to find this weekend something that we've been putting effort into in the past that we might have taken a break from or forgot about or moved on from, that all of a sudden it does feel kind of like re-inspiring and like, you know, has that like, oh, wow, actually using that with where I'm at now and the things I'm into now actually makes a lot of sense. Eight of Wands upright. It's a cool card with Jupiter in the background. Jupiter moon. Yeah, and it too, I mean, I feel like there is maybe just big ideas coming. Like this is definitely a big idea, like a kind of like phantasmic sort of, whoa. But it's like, it doesn't kind of come through in maybe a traditional route or in maybe something the way that you expect it or usually learn or, you know, take in information. It's kind of like, whoa, this was more like a knowing, or, you know, kind of get dropped some information that brings a lot of, I think, empowerment and gives you maybe more confidence to move, you know, forward with things that, again, you probably already know or have put effort into in the past. And the Empress reversed. I think we need to be careful about things that take us out of our fertility, or keep us fertile with creation. You know, if we're becoming a vegetable or, you know, not being grounded, I think that's, you know, one of the hard things. Like we kind of want to find ground. We want to find creative potential in the physical. Take moments to really like feel and to go and give yourself the seclusion you need, and then, you know, try and like touch the earth, touch grass, like do something this weekend that connects you to the earth. That might speed up the download, you know, process and the information process, and bring a sense of serenity and, you know, harmony and beauty into this weekend as well, especially if the mind feels like it's extremely overstimulated. It'll be good to like connect with nature. I feel like that could be, you know, very positive. Also, you know, I feel like music this weekend, like anytime you can, you know, be around music, you know, something that really does bring a vibration, of inspiration to you. That's really positive stuff too, so keep that in mind. And I hope you have a great weekend, and I'll see you all on Monday. Much love. Peace.